I'm not gifted with looks. I know that's shocking to some people. I'm almost like God taketh away when it comes with looks with me. Now, I'm really not that bad when it comes to intelligence in the sense of learning a trade. There's a few semi-trades I know. I just never really put my mind to it. And yet, my highlight, which you would probably have to really know me, and these people do not advertise it. It's very serious to them. So in a way, it's almost like like a bad thing in the sense of like an attack on the family. They keep it very private because it's not a joke. It's not a tarot card reading. And I've made it known, and even law enforcement knows that I have kind of a gift. Not all the time, but when I say something is going to go down, even if it seems extremely far-fetched, I can explain to you how it could happen, which is risky, and that it's going to happen. And this wasn't necessarily something that I was aware of my whole life, but I had been told I had been doing my whole life by school teachers, things like that. I just didn't know it. So when I came to realization of this, I dedicated all my time to it. Now, with that said, I'm able to analyze certain things, and some things I can't figure out where my car keys are. I mean, it's interesting. You kind of give a little trade-off. What does that matter? What it matters is in something that's very important right now, and that's the fate of the United States of America. I can see it from everybody's side. Okay? And the thing that's so ironic, and it's very, very ironic when you look at in fact, I couldn't even have written this, so explain this to me. You have Don Trump and then who's his vice president? Don Michael. Something traumatic to me happened at that same time to a friend of mine. And I would call it like a mind hack. And she was someone who was very gifted. She was a little bit younger than me. Now, I still haven't even recovered from that emotionally. But at the same time, I'm still trying to follow what's going on. And I did predict that there would be a hacking of the internet. Now, I didn't say about Russia because it wasn't Russia, unless Russia's code for something else. Something was going to happen. Something was going to be a smokescreen. And I meant this for Hillary and for Trump because none of us voted. Well, that's how Trump got in. Now, what's so amazing is if you want to look at a election that got stolen, and if you want to look at people storming the Capitol and saying don't verify the votes, you see how he works? Well, I mean, he didn't even win the popular vote. He won the electoral vote. And these polling companies are not biased, meaning they're not Republican or Democrat. They get paid big money to call it like it is, even if it's for the enemy, if you want to call it that, and they don't have any. To not have one polling company get it right is one thing. To be 30 points off is another thing. So we have this hidden group that somehow magically appeared that got Trump into office. Now you would say, well, no, that was the plan all along. They all believed in it. It's just that, the Democrats didn't believe it. If that was the case, and this is something we've studied, and the more time that goes by, the more time we have to study it. If that was the case, you would have definitely seen that represented on Facebook, where now they're telling you, there's terrorist threats and domestic terror left and right. It took days before there was any video basically telling Democrats, screw you, we knew all along Trump would win. Trump was never wanted. If you have the time, go back and look. Even by the most radical Republicans, he was never wanted to be their candidate. So unfortunately, once he won, that's when they fell into order. But there were very few, if any, people who were supporting Trump. And the numbers point to the fact of how could he have won the presidency when he is so disliked? And remember, we didn't even want him covered on the news. And yet the news keeps covering him and covering him and covering him. And then you find out, you know how much money he spent on the 2016 election with TV campaign ads? Do you know how much money he put into television campaign ads? $0. Even if that was an accident, that means that he was in knowledge of it. So then I hear him talking, and I recognize it. I recognize what he's saying, but how can I say this? you're going to be a better interpreter of messages or vibes or whatever if you're kind of more in the position to understand them. And that, that depends on the message. It depends on what vibe you're in or what condition you're in. The problem with Trump, which is probably one of the most classic of all, it's not that he's dumb, it's not that he's stupid, it's that he's controlled by money. So I'm not saying that it means that his, vision is blurry because of money, but that's exactly what I'm saying. And what I mean is, it's not blurred in the sense of I'm going to be for money. It means he's not going to be a proper interpreter of the message. Well, that's unfortunate because he has the money and he's running for president, and he knows that everybody got the message. Some of you are like, what are you talking about? What message? A lot of people got the message. Even if it's not for you, there was a message. Now, Trump supporters, in my opinion, got this message. Let's go as far as say they believed it was from God. Why? I don't know, because it's not a godly message. But within that comes the ability to foresee or forecast coming events. Or, not exactly to a T, but know where the country is kind of headed. This could happen, that can happen. So when he's coming out and saying things like he is about immigration, when immigration's down, and then 8 months later you have a bizarre caravan, like what the fuck is going on here? Why don't they just sneak across the border, coming and slamming on it's like bolstering them in thinking that he must be the Messiah. And the Bible actually echoes this. It echoes this, that is one of the things, that because he's untouchable, because he hasn't been busted, he must be the God. We thought that, doing right was not being racist or not being hateful, but I guess we're wrong. Why? Well, look at this guy. Look what he's saying and look at what's coming true, and he's not even getting into trouble. He must be God. Okay, those exact words, almost exact words, are said in the Bible about what? About the Antichrist. In fact, the Antichrist is given 10 very descriptive personality traits. You don't even know anyone with personality traits like that. Hitler qualifies for 5 of those traits, because you're thinking of the HBO special version when we were in high school and putting on TV, version of what they told us the Antichrist would be. This murderous villain, from the Middle East, killing everybody and on and on and on and on. And you know how they speak in metaphors, and it also gave me the impression that it couldn't be coming from us. We're out looking for the Antichrist. We're the world's savior. We're America. And it turns out that's not the case. And then you look at where he went right when he became president, what he did, going to Israel, building the second temple, which is what it says in the Bible, becoming very close with Israel, which is, I'm not saying bad thing, but Israel isn't over there. The original Bible, yeah, they're talking about that kind of Israel. They're talking about the United States. Then to go and get so cozy with Saudi Arabia, who controls gasoline prices, to be so brilliant to know, he knew. He knew. So this is above business insider information, that gas prices would go up when he was gone. So that's why you were seeing, look what I did, stickers on gas pumps a month before they went up. But it's also getting money from the Saudis. So is Kushner. And yet he's claiming the opposite. What? That it's Hunter Biden and Biden that are getting money. This is something we picked up again and again to the point to where it can't be a coincidence. In other words, he could not specifically be so perfect in essentially being proven, now that we have 7 years under our belt, as doing the exact opposite of what we think or we are told the other group is doing. So everything that he is claiming or accusing other people of, even if it sounds ridiculous, in one way, shape, or form, he is responsible for doing himself. I'm serious. Now, a good saying was said to me once, that you can see the future, but freedom of action must be given. Now, Trump is straddling that line. And my personal thing with that is I have a code. Okay, first of all, I may look like an idiot, but I will tell people, look, I'm not that smart. It's that I have a way to get this information or access this information. Look it up in Psychology Today. God to me, but it doesn't have to be God. It could be Akashic records to you. It could be aliens to you. It could be just that he's guessing and it's a coincidence. Trump is claiming it's him, that he's the one knowing this. So I want you to remember this when I say this. He knows that that message is still being sent out. Why wouldn't it be? Because we know what the future holds. And Martin Luther King knew what the future held. You know what I'm saying? Many civil rights activists were hoping that that's what the future held. We wanted that to be the future. Now, when they see that future, they don't see what we see. They see it like an overrunning of America. Mexicans are going to take it over. Black people are going to take it over. We're going to get bumped into second place. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that, but that's not really the way it's going to go down. But it never goes down like you think. So they're keeping secret amongst themselves that they believe Trump is the Messiah, and that they themselves have had some divine vision to confirm that. We're going to get moted on it. But here's the real big catch. So what happens is this. He's untouched, where everyone who's associated with him, whether it's January 6th or in office, is arrested and doing like 5 years federal time for helping him out, but he's not even in trouble, and he's able to run for president again. Now he's openly making statements that they say are religious of nature. They're messianic. They're Christ-like. And I wouldn't deny that they're Christ-like. But which one exactly? Now, what he is saying may not be untrue. And that's what his goal is, in my opinion. What? If I tell you from July until December, we're going to get a big rainstorm, no one's calling him out on the fact that the country has not gone through anything that he says it would go through, not that he hasn't caused, and it wasn't going through a problem when he got into office. So he keeps to be missing the point where he's predicting or saying that we're in this terrible economic crisis. We will be. Hold on. We will be. Mexicans are coming. Well, immigration is going to be, obviously they're going to be on more street corners than you've ever seen before. Black people are going to have more power than you ever saw before. How are you taking that? Now, so he sees that as the future. So he's basically campaigning. I'm being serious. I'm looking at this analytically. He's campaigning himself as the guy that if he does lose, that when it happens, these people will say, see, you all fucked up. He was right. How did he know? Well, he does know. We all know. But we're not saying anything. He is. But the eerie part about it is that the reason, if there is any conflict, and there's not going to be, isn't because we got taken over. Isn't because blacks have power and illegal immigrants are coming in the country. He and himself have made a prophecy, which he hasn't told us about. He is trying to fulfill the prophecy of being the warner. He's trying to say, I know the future. And I'm trying to protect you from it, and I know that my supporters have seen it also. The problem is this, what? That future, if it is bad for, like, Caucasians, wouldn't be bad if Trump didn't exist. So he's fueling the negativity. In other words, he's not predicting that, well, yeah, blacks and Mexicans are going to take over the country. Okay, I'm telling you, blacks and Mexicans are going to start getting more power and taking over the country. But not taking over like that. That's how he is saying it, and because he's saying it, he is then fueling it. In other words, if Trump came into office and wanted to be a superstar, if he had taken like Obama's way of going, even if everyone hated him for it, we would be a much, much better country. But to go against it gives him fame. Why? Because he's the one that predicted it. Right. I'm saying he's not just predicting it, he's fueling it. So whatever vision he saw, and he knows what I'm talking about if he ever hears this. That's why no Gen Xers are going up against him. Someone's got to go up against him. He thinks he knows. He thinks he's got some kind of like, instead of the stock market, he can see the future of America. But what he is seeing is a future because of him. He's not there to protect us against this doomsday future. He is actually accelerating it. He's causing that problem. When I was telling people about this, I was giving them a message of, this is what's going to happen. Trump's giving you the message of, this is going to happen, and I'm going to keep pushing to make sure that it does. so that I'm right in the end. Fuck the country. I want you to regret not hiring me because I would have protected you. When in fact, God's the one doing this. And he is simply the one rendering punishment. Punishment, yes. The divine destruction of America. It's a long tale. Heard about it for a while. And who's rendering it? Trump. Trump is dividing the country from what it was in 1995 to becoming more of a pastime, a more racist country, a more where whites, blacks, Latinos, and all of them are against Trump, and you have a very militant Caucasian version. In the long run, who do you think is going to come out the loser? Just like in South Central LA, you're going to have black on black crime, and that's payback and karma. And Trump is fueling that. What? You're going to have the good whites versus white whites. And that's going to eliminate most of those whites. So they're going to lose in the long run. But it's because the vision that they're seeing is being fueled by Trump. Trump is not gifted. Because if he was, he would have seen the message and been like, I am one with God. I understand God's messages. It's almost like he wiretapped the message being sent to the angels on earth. And then misunderstood what was being said. It's now got out there, and now everyone's saying, yeah, he's right. I got a dream too, or I had a vision too, or I have an idea too, that this bad thing is going to happen. What is the bad thing? It was going to happen no matter what. Trump's not insightfully predicting these things. He wants you to see it happen in a bad way so that he can say, I told you guys, you should have voted for me. He's already said it. I am your retribution. That's what he said today. And so now he's saying statements before their time. It's just like the birth certificate. That was a bind. How did he know that? What? There is no litmus test. There is no way to prove a birth certificate. No one's ever made a law, like with driver's licenses, or with any kind of identification, on how do you prove or disprove a birth certificate. He knew that. But he knew that when he said that, it would draw in the kind of suspicion of the people he wanted voting for him. He knew that. He says, well, I have to look at it, my people have to look at it. I turned in my birth certificate when they asked for it. No one ever asked for it because there's no way. It's impossible to prove it. It's a bind. And so he's the ultimate terrorist. It is 100% ego and vanity driven. He wants to go down in history as being the guy who told us so and that the country fails. Well, that's not going to happen. Well, no, that wasn't going to happen. But now he's in a position to anger the other side so much that a war could break out so that there literally could be people that go, wow, Trump knew from day one what was going to happen, and he was right. No, Trump knew from day one he had a vision of what was going to be the future. And so did you. And since you're racist, you didn't like that vision, and so you did the most you could to stop it, which then created the conflict. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I've seen this in many other different circumstances, where I've told somebody mistakenly what their future holds, what's going to go on with them. And so I not even knowing that I was involved in it. Now, they didn't want me as that person. But what they did was they reacted in such a way, what they were seeing as a bad thing was what happens when you find out about the future and you react to it, like in Back to the Future. Then it becomes bad. Had I kept my mouth shut and not told them anything, it would have turned out good. But they don't know that now. They would have known it in 5 years. See, I remember telling someone their future, and they said, well, you're wrong. No, you're not a psychic. I'm telling them their future. They don't know yet if they're wrong. So that's the problem. What? They decide in the moment whether or not that's the right or wrong future. That's not going to happen to me. What's not going to happen to you? I'm going to be happy in this. How am I going to be happy with that person? I don't know. You're going to have to live 5 years and find out. Trump's doing the same thing. How are things going to be so great in America when we have these Mexicans and these blacks in charge or are doing all these things? That's what they're thinking. So they think that Trump is their hero to defend them against that. Where I'm telling you, we got the same message, and I know we got it accurately. It was going to work. Trump's basically fucking up the program.